Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Corte Madera Town Council to order. We have nothing to report from our closed session, which ended a few minutes ago. So if we could please have a roll call?
Councilmember Andrews.
Yes.
This is a roll call for the regular meeting. Councilmember Beckman.
Here.
Councilmember Casissa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Ravazio.
Here. And if you could join me for a salute to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have open time now for public comment. These are for things that are not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes to tell us what you want to tell us, and we have a young man up to the microphone. I think we need your microphone on, and if you can get your mouth fairly close to it, we'll be able to hear you a little better.
Okay, is
Thanks, Ruben.
that better? I'll get down here.
There you go.
Anyway, this letter from the sanitary district really didn't feel very good. It says all homeowners must inspect and pressure test their private sewer laterals. So it was like almost forced, and you got to do this. But I wasn't too worried for a couple of reasons. One is that we just had the sanitary sewer lateral done a few years back, and it was done with HDPE pipe. And I know HDPE pipe. I'm doing a national VA cemetery in Idaho, and we're using the HDPE pipe because you can use big, long sections of it and only a very few joints. So the only joints that we have are at the very beginning, right by my deck or my door, front door, and the connection in the main sewer in the street. Okay. And HDPE pipe is really, really slick, so it's going to last forever. Okay. So I was gone in August. And so when I came back, I figured, okay, I needed to take a look at this and find out exactly what's going on. So I called up the sanitary district, and the woman there was not very pleasant. I was feeling like I was being shamed for even asking the questions. And eventually I think she got exasperated because she didn't have the answers to my questions. So she said she was going to have her supervisor call me. And that was 3 weeks ago. And I haven't heard a word. So what I'm saying to you is that this feels like force. I've already paid for this stuff before. The connection is, why do I need to scope something that's only going to have a problem at the connection that the city supplied right at their main? It feels like a scam to me. It really does. Anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that.
Well, thank you for coming in, and I'm sure we can get some kind of response to the.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe there's something I don't know, and that's what it's like. Fine.
No, you're doing all the right things. We'll have somebody from the sanitary district respond to you with exactly what's necessary.
And do we have your name and phone number? Do you have his phone number and contact
I'm the
information?
shorter guy, Don Wilberg, 13 Seminole. You want my phone number?
Yeah, Adam will take it or something.
I'll
We'll get it later or,
Alrighty.
okay. You
Thanks.
don't need to broadcast that publicly.
All right.
You'll get all kinds of calls. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Okay, is there anybody else here in the chambers who would like to have your 3 minutes of open time? Seeing none, is there anyone online who would like to speak at open time?
We have a hand raised from Roy Wolford, and we did receive emailed public comment that was shared with council, and it is available on the website for the public to view as well.
What time was that? Was that today?
Yes,
Oh,
from Bob Middlestead regarding e-bikes.
e-bikes. Okay, yeah, I think I read that.
Okay. Roy, you can go ahead.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Mr.
I
Wilford.
want to address issue with MCE board meeting on September 18th and the holiday, October 13th. A member of the public and prior MCE board member called in after budgetary presentations and discussions at the September 18th meeting to express his concern about the $12 million loss MCE occurred during the 2024-2025 budget cycle. He expressed passionately that we, is what he said, he referring to the board members and staff, had failed the customers, in providing what was promised lowest cost electricity. Following this, 4 members of the board spoke out about disagreeing with the caller's statements. One was Barbara Kohler, who was one of 5 council members in Fairfax who implemented 2 ordinances derived from the National Socialists of America, that's rent control and just cause eviction. I don't have time to go into the details, but under the JCE, it could have cost a landlord over $120,000 a year to subsidize a tenant who was displaced through no fault of the landlord. Another board member made the charge that he takes great exceptions to someone who questions the motives or integrity of our CEO or staff. Eli said he wanted to go on record. Eli, you are on the record. And you had no justification to attack the caller's motives and or integrity. He used the words we and our, meaning he owned, along with everybody else at the MCE, the problems, the failures, and the desire to resolve them. In addition, I wanted to call the MCE office on Monday, October 13th. They were closed to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. This is the same movement that is pushing the concept of stolen land. The push is that all land in the U.S. be returned to the Indigenous people so they can live the life and culture of the original Indigenous peoples. Did the MCE board members, all 42, approve the Indigenous Peoples Day and stolen lands as a holiday for the staff? Eli, as the council representative on the MCE board, do you know the answer? That concludes my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Wilford. Anybody else online? Is that it? Okay, so we don't have any presentations tonight, so that takes us to the consent calendar. These are items grouped together which are either routine or have been discussed previously and do not require further discussion. They will be approved by a single motion. However, any member of the public may comment on the consent calendar. Town council, town staff, or the public may request removal of an item for specific discussion. So is there anyone who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar?
Yes,
Jim?
please vote 4B, the polluters pay climate bill.
4B?
Yes,
Okay, anything else from anybody else? All right, so could I have a motion for the remaining items on the consent calendar for A, for C, for D, and for E?
I can make the motion.
second,
All right. Is there anybody in the public who would like to remove anything from the consent calendar?
We have a hand raised from Roy Wolford. I'm not sure if it's for public comment or for a request to remove an item. Give me 1 second.
Would you like to let him
Yes.
speak?
Roy, go ahead.
Okay, I second the motion to pull 4B, proposed resolution number 40, 2025, Polluters Pay Climate Superfund Act. The council should thoroughly discuss this
Okay,
resolution.
we're going to have a conversation about that in just a moment, so thank you for your motion. We actually don't need a motion and a second for that. Any individual can pull something off the consent calendar. Thank you, Roy. Okay, so let's now deal with the existing consent calendar without 4B. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
A second? And can we take roll?
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
And just because I didn't announce it, there weren't any other hands raised, so we didn't receive public comment for the remaining items on the consent calendar.
Okay. So then moving on to 4B as an item unto itself. Where do we begin? Should we listen to those who wanted it pulled from the consent calendar? Jim, can you give us a minute or two on why you think we should discuss this separately?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I find the staff report for this measure to be pretty lacking, in particular, since you did not bother to include either of the legislation that we are supposedly supporting. And so that's one problem. Secondly, when you actually go and look at their legislation, you realize that it's basically an attack on the entire petroleum industry, which is occurring at a time when approximately 20% of our refining capacity is about to shut down in the next year because the companies are objecting to the level of regulation in California. If we pass this in similar spirited legislation, I don't know how it's going to help our economy since, how shall I put it? If you look at economic history, all of our economic growth has been based on the availability of free, or not free, but abundant and relatively cheap energy. California, once again, is through this legislation, is going in the opposite direction. I think we'd be better off if we were to step back, see how well it works in Europe, where they have been decarbonizing, and figure out if we want to follow their path or build our own path. So, yeah, I think this entire proposal is irresponsible. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the council who would like to ask any questions, or let's hold comments until after we get to open time for the public? But if you have any questions, I just have one question. Is are the laws available? Do we have something in writing that we can take a look at there? I know they were
Yeah, I
referenced,
can
but-
start on this, and Phoebe, if you can back me up if I say anything incorrect, but these in the staff report, it actually includes a link to AB 1243. So perhaps, next time we can include the text as an attachment if that's helpful. But it does include a link to AB 1243 and an identical state Senate bill, SB 684. And so these were not, sorry, the question was whether we can.
I'm questioning whether or not the laws were actually included, because I saw the link, but I didn't know if somebody gets the report in hard copy, which Jim
include it.
does.
Well, we can do that if
Okay.
if that next time we
So
certainly.
it was there for everybody who sees it in an electronic version. It just wasn't there for you because you get it on paper? It wasn't on the paper version. Okay. Okay. No questions from the council, so I'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make comments on this? Well, come on up. And if you could give us your name and where you live, and
I'm shorter.
put that, not necessarily your specific address, but.
Okay. Melody Schumacher. I live on Paradise Drive. I have 3 kids that sailed through Neil Cummins and Hall Middle School, and I'm here to talk in favor of the Climate Superfund Act. I would like you to vote yes. This is a bill that puts money in your coffers. It doesn't cost you anything except your belief that polluters pay. We're sea level rise, flooding, wildfires all cost money, especially for a town like Corte Madera. The Climate Superfund Act is a bill that gives you money for those expenses. I appreciate Council Members Andrews' comments. I would contest that refineries are being shut down by this bill. The money comes from profits, their profits. Over the last 3 decades, big oil has profited $2.06 trillion. That's a T, not a B, not an M, it's trillion. The Climate Superfund Act takes 3.5% of those profits and puts it in a coffer from the Cal EPA, which distributes it for resiliency and rebuilding. Yes, refineries are closing, but 30% of the exports from California, 30% of the production of California refineries are outgoing to other countries and other states. If there is a dip in the need from those refineries, it is usually taken out of those exports. Again, this is a bill based on profit splitting, not on fining and the sharing of those expenses. What else can I think it's important. I really want you to say yes. I think it's important to the citizens of Corte Madera to know that you're behind this bill. I think a no vote would send a different message. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this? Is there anyone else online? I'm guessing there's somebody.
Yes, Roy Wolford has his hand raised, and then similar to what I announced earlier, we received emailed public comment for this item, and it is available on the website for the public to view. Roy, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead. Roy.
Mr. Wolford, are you there?
I am. The unmute button just popped up. Okay. Good evening again. The council should thoroughly discuss this resolution tonight and open the discussion to all residents for comment at a later time. This act, as written, requires an annual tax of $51.7 billion a year be imposed on super polluters. Who is naive enough to believe any business with this confiscatory tax will remain in California, or if they do remain, the $51.7 billion tax will be passed along to the consumer with interest. This tax will significantly punish the middle to lower income, underrepresented families and individuals. There are so many non-scientific, non-factual, and or ideological statements in the resolutions, whereases, and therefores, it's pathetic. The mentality and ideology expressed in this resolution goes back to Salem, Massachusetts in the 1690s. And maybe they had more common sense back then than now. Each of you council members and virtually everyone else, past and present in the United States and much of the world, has been a consumer of hydrocarbons and petrochemical products and services. It's made our life much better and healthier. The push to completely eradicate hydrocarbons would require everyone to return to the indigenous people's culture and way of life. Let's see which council members step up to that way of life. 2 more things. To illustrate the misinformation in dealing with climate change statements in the resolution, there were 2 people during 2020 and 2021 at council and other meetings that regularly proclaimed the sea level was rising 1 to 2 inches per year for the last 5 years in California. That would equate to 8.4 feet to 16.7 feet of rise in 100 years. The relative sea level rise, according to NOAA, show the rise at the entrance of San Francisco Bay to be 1.99 millimeters per year, or 0.65 feet per century. That's well under 1 foot in 100 years. That's the magnitude of misinformation being contended with in the resolution, and so at so many other levels. I asked the council members who often indicate they are very concerned about underrepresented individuals to explain how AB 1243 and SB 684 is just and helpful to the underrepresented. Promoting this fiscatory tax says otherwise, and I would appreciate if Adam would tell us what the status is of these particular bills. Thank you.
Okay, and is there anyone else online with their hand raised to speak?
No other hands raised online.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council for any comments, deliberation. Eli?
Yeah, thank you. Look, Corte Madera adopted a climate adaptation plan to protect our community from the effects of climate change that we know are coming, and some of which are already upon us. Flooding, right, sea level rise and increased rainfall, increased inundation, and wildfire risk. In my estimation, there's more than $200 million of work in Corte Madera's climate adaptation plan, projects that we have determined have to happen in order to protect our homes and our businesses and our infrastructure from these effects. I don't understand why Corte Madera taxpayers should be the one paying for those projects to happen when they are not the ones who've been extracting and promoting the use of fossil fuels for decades. Corte Madera taxpayers are not the ones who have been knowingly hiding the effects of fossil fuel consumption and hiding, climate science from the public. I just think it would be absolutely unfair to put that massive financial burden on Corte Madera taxpayers when the companies that are behind this continue to profit off it to this day. So in my mind, this legislation is common sense, and I think Corte Madera should support it, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the right thing to do by our taxpayers. Thank you.
Fred, anything?
I'll echo, I think, what Eli said, and I can support this moving forward. I think Eli, I think it was really well said. So I can support it going forward. And I'm sorry, one other thing, I want to also thank Melanie for bringing this forward to us. It seemed like this was a grassroots thing that she and another group started. I think they brought it up to council. So again, I appreciate her efforts on this.
Down here? Rosa, Jim, you've already spoken?
I'll just say that I am a big believer in process, and I believe that this has not become law yet, and I think it's going to be looked at very carefully by the legislature, and they will make adjustments. So I think that so I believe in seeing the process play out. And if it is as bad a piece of legislation as some people believe, that will be revealed. And if it's as good a piece, it will also be revealed. So I think that it puts the polluters on notice, and also to think about, well, maybe I don't want to be a super polluter, and maybe I'll find other ways to do things so that these kinds of proposals do not come up from the grassroots. And yeah, I just think that we need to just let this play out and see where it goes.
Thank you very much. And from my point of view, this is one of the most important issues in my professional and personal life. I originally became concerned about the impacts of fossil fuel emissions on our environment in 1982 when I interviewed Buckminster Fuller for 7 hours and listened to this man who Steve Jobs called the Leonardo da Vinci of the 20th century explain in detail to me his urgent warnings for humanity. And I never forgot it. And I followed it up and eventually wrote a book about it. And so I have followed Exxon, as it used to have engineers that were trying to speak the truth until they became quieted and started intentionally sowing doubt about the science of climate change, and they have done it very successfully. I've been chased off the internet at least 3 times for my blogs and my posts, so I feel like I've been at war with the fossil fuel industry since 1982 in my own sort of quiet way, or not quiet, but, not really out there. And Jim, you mentioned mean-spirited, but I think mean-spirited is putting your profits ahead of the welfare of the whole race on planet Earth. I also think, believe it or not, there are more important things than economic growth of industries that are not beneficial to our society. So I do think it's time. There is no time to dither. We can't wait around for somebody else to solve this problem. California has led the way. We learned through science that the number of parts per million of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is best kept at 350 parts per million. Right now in Maui, which they're shutting down, actually, the thing that now measures the parts per million, the last number I saw was 427. So we are way above where we need to be. Not only the things that Eli mentioned are affecting us, but just temperature rise. I've lived here for 30 years, and I didn't used to be able to grow tomatoes or wear a T-shirt out in the summertime. I had to bundle up, and so I've seen it in my lifetime, and I am very concerned. And I'm most concerned because now, with all this other chaos going on, this issue has gone from the front burner to the back burner, and it's fallen off the back of the stove. So I think we, as a small town that represents our taxpayers in a situation that is really pivotal, need to support this. So that's my comment. Is there a motion for this item?
I'd like to move adoption of the resolution, number 40, 2025.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Andrews,
No.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, I'm honored that I actually got to finally vote on something that I really, really, really care about. Not that I don't care about all the other stuff, but thank you, Melody, for your work. Keep it up. Okay, we'll move on to public hearings now. These next 3 are ones that we have had one public hearing on, but because they are ordinance changes, we need to have 2 public hearings. So the first one is regarding adopting ordinance number 1048, amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction of the Corte Madera Municipal Code. And who is going to give us their review of this one, their executive summary?
Well, you were speaking my language, Madam Mayor. This is what I live for.
Oh, good.
So
We all got to live for something, right?
Oh, there's other things. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you very much. The item before you is the adoption of ordinance number 1048, which would amend Title 15, which is Building and Construction of the Corte Madera Municipal Code, to adopt the 2025 California Building Standards Code with continued local amendments, as well as the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code. The local amendments are primarily administrative, related to code enforcement, and also include the town's existing REACH codes that increase requirements for energy savings and EV infrastructure in certain residential projects. Council conducted a public hearing and introduced the ordinance at October 7th, 2025 council meeting with a 4-to-1 vote. Adoption of the building code by reference requires a 2-meeting process with public hearings at each meeting. Adoption of the ordinance has been publicly noticed as part of the agenda packet, and public notice was also published in the newspaper on 10/10/2025 and 10/16/2025 in advance of this meeting. If adopted this evening, staff will immediately begin the process of submitting our local amendments to the state for approval and acceptance. CEC, the California Energy Commission, reviews the process. The review process typically takes 2 months, but may take up to 3 to 6 months, depending on the number of applications being processed, the need for additional information, or public input. You may notice that the font has been changed from the Times New Roman to Arial, and that is due to the state accessibility requirements. Otherwise, no change to the ordinance since the last meeting. If adopted, the ordinance would go into effect on January 1st, 2026, which is the effective date of the 2025 California Building Standards Code, except that energy code amendments require approval by the CEC and will only go into effect following that approval. Staff recommends that the Town Council, after reviewing all information, presentations, and public testimony, adopt ordinance number 1048. Myself and Climate Coordinator Phoebe are available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the council? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, is there anyone online who would like to speak?
No hands raised from attendees online and no emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for any comments and a motion.
I can make the motion to adopt ordinance number 1048, amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction of Corte Madera Municipal Code to adopt the 2025 California Building Standards Code, known as Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations, with continued local amendments.
Second.
We have a roll call?
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, moving on to 5B. This one is regards the California Fire Code. Ordinance number 1049, repealing and reenacting chapter 15.02, adopting the California Fire Code and the 2024 International Fire Code with amendments supported by local findings. And we probably have a staff report from Ruben Martin, our fire chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Ruben Martin, Fire Chief with the Central Marin Fire Authority and your local fire chief. This is part of our 3-year code adoption cycle that we go through triannually. If you recall, on our October 7th meeting, we introduced ordinance number 1049 and held a public meeting in which the council voted 5-0 to approve the council or to approve this ordinance before you. Just a little background for those that weren't present at that meeting or members of the public that weren't here. The triennial code cycle, or every 3 years, the base or model code is published by the International Code Council every 3 years. And then from there, the California Building Standards Commission then takes that publication along with the State Fire Marshal's Office, and then makes local California amendments that both regulate both building and fire safety regulations for the state. And then those are published in July 1st of every 3 years. So they were published on July 1st, 2025, which then we, as fire prevention officers throughout the entire county, got together, reviewed them, and compared them to our local amendments that we have here and see if there's been any updates or changes to the California State Code. And then we went ahead and reintroduced or remade the amendments that were previously in prior adoptions. And so that's kind of the process that we go through every 3 years. So what we have before you today is, in this public hearing, is ordinance number 1049 for our second reading before you, and I am here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Chief Martin. Are there any questions from the council? Anybody? Is there anyone in the room who would like to make a comment on this issue? Anybody online?
No hands raised from attendees online, and we also didn't receive emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
Yeah,
or
I'd like to
comments?
move ordinance number 1049, repealing and reenacting chapter 15.02.
Second.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Oh, we're being so efficient right now. Guess it's because we've actually done it before. Oh, is that what's happening tonight? Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, Phoebe.
Okay, we'll move on then to number 5C, consideration and possible action to adopt ordinance 1050, amending title 15, building and construction of the Corte Madera Municipal Code by repealing and reenacting chapter 15.04, adopting the 2025 edition of the California Wildland Urban Interface Code and the 2024 International Wildland Urban Interface Code, prescribing regulations governing the mitigation of hazard to life and property from the intrusion of fire from wildland exposures. I will let Chief Martin go into the rest of that. If you
Thank
have
you
a
again,
sec-
Madam Mayor and members of the council. This also is part of our 3-year code adoption cycle. This one is which is actually new, is the California Wildland Urban Interface Code, which is for the first time in California's history, the California Building Standards Commission has taken the International Wildland Urban Interface Code and actually incorporated it into their California Title 24 sections of the California building codes. The biggest part of prior to this code being created, there were sections within the both California Building Code, California Residential Code, California Fire Code that all dealt with protection of properties and structures that are located in areas that are prone to wildfires. What the California Building Standards Commission did this year is they actually took the chapters out of the California Building Code, which was Chapter 7A, Section 337 out of the Residential Code, and Chapter 49 of the California Code, the California Fire Code, and actually incorporated them all into one standalone code by itself. So with the new code that we have before you is the 2025 California WUI Code with which is based off the 2024 International Fire Code. And we also introduced this at a public hearing before you on October 7th at one of the hearings. And it was also introduced and approved by your council at a 5-0 vote. Once again, I recommend that the council approve the ordinance as presented. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you kindly. Are there any questions from the council? Seeing none, moving on to our meeting room. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Seeing nobody. Checking online now. Is there anyone online?
No hands raised from attendees online. No emailed public comment for this item. either.
Okay, I'm back to the council for a motion or a comment.
I can make the motion, quick comment. I just want to thank Bernie, Phoebe, Chief Martin, and also Chris, Fire Inspector. I know this stuff, it's kind of a hassle sometimes, and it gets long-winded and long-worded, but there's a lot of work that I think people don't realize that's behind it. So I appreciate all the work on that. And with that, I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt ordinance number 1050.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for all your hard work. We know we get the easy part. You have to do everything and we get to say yes or no. So thank you. Happy to say yes to this one. Okay, moving on now to number 6. This is consideration and possible action to authorize staff to refurbish Town Park Plaza with furnishings, appropriating a maximum of $32,670 and directing staff to finalize the ADA compliant furniture selection and layout and install the new furniture and including refinishing the concrete tables. So I know that the hardest working assistant manager in all of Marin County is here to give you a staff report. Rebecca, thank you.
Still learning if this is a glasses or no glasses situation. Good eve.
Oh, and Tim Barry's here too. Hi, Tim.
Right.
He kind of suddenly appeared.
It's okay. I'll just hold. All right, and Lorena's got my slides up. Thank you, Mayor Ravazio and council members, and thank you for that introduction. The item before you provides background on the Town Park Plaza Furniture Project and requests that council discuss and consider authorization of up to $32,670 to proceed with the refinishing and replacement of furnishings at the plaza. I will briefly summarize the project's history, the commission feedback received, and next steps. And after that, Mayor Ravazio will share her vision behind the community table concept and the broader goal for the space. Then council will have an opportunity for discussion and questions. Next slide, please. The purpose of tonight's item is to, one, provide background on the Town Park Plaza project, to summarize the Parks and Recreation Commission's review and feedback, and to facilitate council discussion and seek authorization of funds to refinish and relocate existing tables and purchase new ADA compliant furnishings. It's important to note there is no final layout or specific design being presented tonight. This is just a request for council to discuss and consider providing authorization to move forward within an approved budget. Next slide, please. Town Park Plaza was built in 2012 by the Corte Madera Community Foundation, which also facilitated the purchase of 6 donor-funded concrete tables that have served the community for nearly 14 years. Improvements to the furnishings were discussed at several times over the past years and approved in 2021, but then the project was ultimately postponed. This past year, Mayor Ravazio requested that the project be added to the 2025 staff work plan to help promote community building and strengthen the sense of place in our recreational core. This project was included in the staff work plan that was adopted and accepted by council at the February 4th meeting. Next slide, please. This slide just shows an overview, a general overview of the plaza. If we have time at the end and if council wishes, I also have Google Earth open in another tab I can switch to, where we can zoom in, show street level views, and Google Earth even has a progression of the plaza over the years that I can toggle between, which is really nice to see the evolution of the space. Next slide, please. The plaza is one of Corte Madera's most popular gathering spaces, and it's used daily for meetups among friends, outdoor dining, and small performances, among many uses. After nearly 14 years of constant use, the furnishings are starting to show visible signs of wear. The Community Foundation, which helped fund the original tables, is supportive of the proposal to refinish them and also updating the furniture to preserve the plaza's appeal as a welcoming public space. Next slide, please. Okay, these images I found on the Community Foundation's website. They show the plaza's evolution from its installation in 2012 at the top to phase 2 in 2018 when the shade structure was added. And now today, where retractable sunshades that were installed in 2021 can now be raised and lowered as needed and even used for outdoor movies. The 6 concrete tables that you see in the pictures with the donor plaques are currently located beneath the shade trellis. The refinishing project would restore and preserve these tables and then reposition them to the outer perimeter of the plaza to make better use of the shaded area. Cafe Verde's furniture remains separate on the south side of the plaza as required by ABC regulations. Next slide, please. The proposed enhancements include refinishing and relocating the 6 existing donor-funded concrete tables, purchasing new ADA compliant tables, chairs, 1 long community table with a bench on one side and chairs around the other sides, and reorganizing the layout to allow more flexible and inclusive seating. All furnishings will be durable, low maintenance, and compatible with the plaza's existing design aesthetic. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, my bad. There were two pictures that went with the last discussion. Next slide, please. There we go. Now I'm back on track. The Parks and Recreation Commission reviewed this proposal at their September 29th meeting and expressed support for the project. The feedback they provided emphasized several priorities. First, they asked to add signage to reinforce that the plaza is open public space and not exclusive Cafe Verde seating. Ensure that ADA access and child safety near the parking area is taken into consideration. Explore opportunities for more shade if the tables are moved to the perimeter, and stronger pedestrian linkage to Town Park and the dog park, and also to be mindful of the importance of having a holistic plan for the whole area, which includes the plaza, the town park, Corte Madera Center, the barn, the dog park, the fluidity of the area, and also continued engagement with the community and the foundation as the layout and furnishings are finalized. So these suggestions will guide refinements as the project progresses. Next slide, please. Again, the total project cost is estimated at up to $32,670, which includes roughly $7,200 for the refinishing project, and then $20,000 to $22,500 for new furniture, and also minor staff and site preparation costs. Funding is available in the town's capital project fund, and all expenses are within the fiscal year 25-26 capital allocation, and no contribution is being requested from the Community Foundation for this phase. Next slide, please. Before finalizing any purchases, staff will work with our ADA certified staff to confirm table placement, accessible routes, and required clearances. A detailed site plan would then be developed based on that feedback and on council's discussion this evening. Once finalized, refinishing and installation would be scheduled to minimize disruption to public use, and the process is expected to take about 5 days. Next slide, please. Okay, that concludes the staff summary of the project, and now we'll turn it over to Mayor Ravazio to share more about her vision that originally inspired the project, the idea of a community table modeled after a plaza in downtown Healdsburg, and how this effort ties into her broader goal of fostering connection and vitality in our public spaces. Mayor Ravazio.
Thank you very much. Wow, other than climate change, building community has kind of been my big thing for a long time. And I feel like the Corte Madera Community Foundation's creation of this Town Park Plaza and the community cafe there in what was a beat up old dentist office, run down. I don't know if you all remember it, but I believe it's been one of our town's biggest contributions to the community itself. And it's not just for the enjoyment. People say, oh, it's fun, it's nice, but what we've learned, and that was really my motivation at the beginning, was just how do we make something more fun and more nice? But then reading lately about blue zones and longevity and difficult times ahead, they all point to the fact that communities that are close-knit, where the people know each other, where they have gathering places, not only do they live longer, literally years longer, but when things go south, when there are real challenges, these communities already know how to come together. And so the good times help support us and provide us with the resources for the harder times. And one of the reasons why there was a desire for new furnishings here was in part because the big round concrete tables can't be moved. And so there was no flexibility for creating larger gathering spaces. If somebody, like even the town, wants to have a meeting there with a dozen people, you really can't do it on 2 or 3 concrete tables that are sitting there. It's really going to be very helpful to have the larger community table. And as you mentioned about Healdsburg, I don't know if you've been up there, but there is one much longer than this one, but because this is going to be like about 120 inches, I think is the length. And you can't really see here, but this is a beautiful live edge teak table that the foundation's Glenda Corning helped us pick out. It's really going to be quite beautiful. But the most important thing is if you're a single person or just wanting to communicate, to be with your community, you don't have to go and sit at a table by yourself. If you come sit at this table, you're sort of indicating that you'd love to enjoy the company of others. So I really think for our, our epidemic of loneliness, whatever, that this is really going to provide a real service to the community. And the other thing is the concrete tables, by moving to the outside perimeter, and they just fit beautifully. I mean, I know we're going to ADA certify them, but I think we've done it a number of times to make sure that there is adequate space around them. This will allow us to double the seating of this area to about 80 to 90 people. And so for bigger gatherings, for live music, for meetings, for when there's big community events that need to happen, we'll have that kind of capacity to be able to bring people in. And yes, the signage is really important. I think it needs to say Town Park Plaza open to the public, no purchase at Cafe Verde necessary, or I don't know how you say that exactly, but something like that, because we see it all the time now. I mean, I see that plaza a lot, and it's filled with little kids who bring in their lunchbox or their, whatever from wherever. And Cafe Verde has been very accommodating of people who want to just use the plaza. And they have also, one of the details that Rebecca didn't get into, Cafe Verde has committed to safeguarding these furnishings. They will be nice ones, and they will lock up the chairs at night. And I'm not sure about locking up the tables, but they'll make sure that they are secure. And they also have security cameras on site. And the other good news is that we don't see theft of this kind of thing in our community. So we're not too worried about it, but on the other hand, they're really good quality so that they'll last. The chairs are aluminum, one die cast, so there's no nuts and bolts and joints that can become loose. They're all one thing, and they stack. They're really good quality. I was really pleased to get this on the work plan last year, and I'm really excited that it's come to this point this evening, and I hope we can get the council's support to move it forward. And I think that's all I have on that. So are there questions of any of us from the council? Anybody?
I'll let Jim go first.
Okay. Looks like a very good idea and well thought through. The middle tables and chairs, they will be under shade, so we don't have to worry about the charcoal color getting them too warm on sunny days, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And there are finishes that have that look that actually don't heat up. They absorb the heat and would not create a warm situation where you would be burned.
And there's also been a request from the Parks and Rec Commission to put the umbrellas in the stone tables, which will be on the outside perimeter. So I think it'll look really pretty, and it'll also provide more shade for those who want it outside the shade structure.
And will that work with the skateboarders?
I don't know about that. They have their own skate park. I hope they don't try to use it. Anybody else? Questions or?
Yeah. So a couple of things that the Parks and Rec Commission brought up that I just want to ask about. The umbrellas on the small round tables, there was concern about the effectiveness of them at certain times of day because because of the way the sun hits, that basically if you're sitting at those tables, even with the umbrellas, you will be in the sun. And then my concern too was the wind. It always feels a little precarious sitting under a big umbrella when it's windy as it gets here. So I was just wondering, if there's been any concerns or a way of addressing that. And I was also wondering, is there any limit to how many pieces of the furniture can be stored by Cafe Verde? You know what I mean? Because this is a lot of furniture. So especially the little, there's 8 that would go around the big table. So that's kind of a lot. I'm just wondering, do they have enough room to store all of those if need be? Oh, go ahead, Rebecca. I didn't know who was.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. I just wanted to add that I believe it came up in the commission discussion that they wanted to defer the locking up of the tables and chairs unless a need presents itself.
Okay.
Partly because we want to trust our community and partly because the cafe opens a bit later in the morning and they wanted the public to be able to utilize the furnishings earlier in the day. So unless a situation arises where it becomes evident that that security is needed, we may just not have that be a requirement at this time.
And I will just add, we are looking at cameras as well as a potential option, and to deter, or let people know that there are cameras on the space.
And then about the umbrellas, and I know they mentioned a specific time of day, and I can't remember what it was, where the sun sort of comes
Late
over.
afternoon.
You did. And they mentioned a time in the late afternoon, and I don't know if it's a result of the solar panels on the community center, but it was brought up that the sun, when it's angled downward, it bounces off the community center roof, which was partly why the shades were installed on the shade structure. And when those shades are, you'll often find them all the way down to the ground in the afternoons because of the sharp angle of the sun.
Okay.
But there are umbrellas that are angled, and there's different placements on the plaza. Maybe all aren't shaded at the same time, but it may be possible to have some of them have more angular shade than others.
Some areas will be. Okay. Let's see. What else down here? During the time that the refinishing is taking place, will Cafe Verde still be able to be open?
Yes, Cafe Verde will be able to be open. They do have their tables on the plaza that are separate and under their rental agreement. The refinishing of the concrete tables will be done in place with a sort of a film barricade around them to protect the dust from escaping into the plaza. So the plaza itself won't be able to be used by the public, maybe the perimeter of the plaza, but not immediately under the shade structure where they're going to be installing the barrier to protect everyone from dust. So you'll be able to have access to Cafe Verde and around Cafe Verde, but not the tables under the shade structure.
It'll just be a little noisy.
It'll be a little noisy, most likely.
But I think it's only going to take, I think he said 3 or 4 days. So it'll be pretty quick. And if we time it for when the weather's kind of cold and gray, it won't be missed as much. Bernie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. So I did want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't make one comment. So I believe that the furniture hasn't been finalized yet. So with that, that's good. Because I just wanted to make a comment that if we have the live edge table underneath the trellis area, if we have 8 tables under there with the chairs that go with the 8 tables and the bench or benches for the live edge table, that takes up a considerable amount of space. I do have the dimensions between each trellis post And that's very critical because not every single table must be ADA compliant. So that's great. We would only need 2 that would have to be compliant there, but one of them would have to also be the table. So we have a saying we call equal equal. So if it's equal for us, it has to be equal for all users. So with that said, I would say, again, without knowing all the dimensions, without knowing any of the features of any new future tables, I would be, it's going to be very, very tight under there with 8 tables and all the chairs that go with it and the benches for the table. So
And I can add to that. And Bernie and I have spoken about this, and sort of, I think what I would be recommending as well, and all of this would be consulted with Bernie, who's our ADA coordinator, but probably start with maybe 5 of the
6.
tables.
I think
5.
6, so you have 3 on each side, maybe?
We'll figure it out, but I think what's important is to recognize that the exact configuration, these are meant to be movable tables and chairs anyways, but the exact configuration is not set in stone, so to speak. And so importantly, though, we want to make sure that each of the type of table and chairs and seating areas are accessible and comply with ADA. And so that may mean that we're going to have to space some out a little bit further than what's shown in the diagram. And so that's, I think, what Bernie's trying to communicate. And my recommendation would probably start with 5 or 6, purchasing 5 or 6, see how they fit. And then if you want to go further, you can fit them elsewhere. So.
And just one clarification, after we looked at the idea of the benches on the community table, it was agreed that seniors don't really like benches. They want something with a back. So with Glenda's help, we kind of came to the idea of one bench and then chairs on the other side. So some of those chairs that we were planning to order would also be with the bench, and there would only be, with the community table. So there would only be one bench on one side of the table. But all of these things, and the Community Foundation is very interested and willing to keep working with us on this. And Rebecca and Glenda and I spent several hours shopping for furniture, and there was a lot of things to think about. We want the community table to be the same height as the other tables so that you could do a nice, really long, for somebody who wants to host a dinner with 20 people, you could put all those tables together. And there's the versatility is really, for me, one of the biggest valuable factors of it, that we can do that.
Well, we do have many, many, many options out there. And I like that you said that the height of the tables, because the tables would have to be at 34 inches maximum height,
Right.
Especially the live oak or the live edge table, because part of that, either the bench or the seat, the chairs, they would have to be accessible. That would be the one table. And then one of the other 5 or 4, whatever we have underneath there, in addition to that table. But 34 inches would be the maximum height that we would have on those tables.
And what's the minimum? Do you know, is there a minimum?
It would have to clear a minimum of 27 inches. So it has to be a clear 27 inches for a wheelchair user.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, Fred.
I had a couple, thanks for the ADA stuff, because I was going to ask that question. To tag along with that, what about, I think came up in Park and Rec about kids' safety. If you can kind of address that and couple that with, it looks like some of the tables are squared. What happens? I know kids and edges don't go very well together sometimes.
Well, the parents have to pay very close attention to the children. I don't have an answer to that, council member.
I would just note, if you look at some of the photos, it's not that the tables where they're going to be placed are right on the edge of the roadway. There's the planters, and then there's an actual real sidewalk that exists as well. And so to me, that indicates there's enough of room there, obviously, for circulation around it. Kids like to get up, but there's the planter area again, and then a normal sidewalk before you get to a roadway surface. Obviously, those are things that people, as Bernie said, I think you have to pay attention to. And at the end of the day, there's if modifications that need to be made. I think one of the areas, the front of the plaza, there is a fence that was put up in front of that sidewalk. Some of that delineates, tells people not to go that direction. That theoretically could be considered in the future, but I think this is plenty of room there to the west of where the tables are proposed to go to actually allow for normal circulation around there.
Okay.
Streets.
All right, thanks. And then any procurement, I can't say that word, of materials, services, will all be done directly by the town, right?
Absolutely, and we'll follow our procurement process and our ordinance.
Okay, and then back to this side. This may not be you, don't worry. You got your hands up. The cement tables, those have to be moved, correct? How are those being moved? Because I know when this came up 5 years ago, Public Works at that time said they couldn't move them. We're gonna have to hire an outside. The costs went up exponentially by hiring a company from the outside to try to move them. So who's moving them this time?
Our team, and when talking to Wes, they actually will be able to move them. It will require a forklift likely to move those round tables. And I think we had a picture of them actually installing them, and the top piece comes off the stone, but they will be able to do it. I'd rather have, frankly, our team do it than some outside consultant who's going to come in and potentially not know how to maneuver around there and understand sort of the very exact nature of how we want them placed. And Bernie will work with our team to get that done.
Is there an additional cost to that, or is that built
It's
into
labor. We have forklift in our courtyard, but it's time.
Okay.
Labor. Yeah.
And just, you know me, worst case, if they forklift one of those and it breaks, are we on the hook to replace it, and how much would it cost? Again, I just look at worst case.
Yeah,
Rough idea.
I think it was, I don't know if those still exist out there in the being manufactured and who purchased them. They were obviously, I think, gifts by the foundation at the time to the town. That would be unfortunate. We'd have to figure out some way to put another table and chair or something and commemorate and have the folks that donated that recognized.
Okay. And then just one last question. If we put umbrellas, so if I have this right, the cement tables get moved to the outer edge, right? We put umbrellas there. I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm just going to ask it. Once those umbrellas are up, do they block any sight lines with respect to cars coming in and out of there, or like kids running across this? Because I've seen kids, I do it also. I don't go to the crosswalk. I'll just, cut across the street there if I'm going to Tim's office or something like that.
So I don't know if it would block any kind of a view. However, there is a buffer zone there with the tree wells and the sidewalk. So there is a little bit of distance between the tables and the road. So there's, let's see, there's about 11 or 12 feet between the edge of a table and the roadway or the face of a curb. So there's 12 feet of buffer zone there.
Okay, it's just hard for me to visualize. And I assume if there's a heavy wind, those things will be pretty much nailed down where they're not going to blow over.
I can handle that. I researched lots of photos of the installation of this project, and there's actually a hole in the center of the table and a concrete base. So it's not like you could move them once they're installed easily without taking the base out, taking the umbrella out and relocating them. But the base would be in the middle under that table, and then the umbrella would insert down through the hole and attach to the base. So it would be relatively immovable, even with our wind.
All right, so it sounds like it's not moving. Thanks.
Any other comments from council?
I will, just because it's the kind of annoying person I am. I will ask one thing, just because I know this sort of came about not in our normal process of figuring out a project to do. So I just want to sort of, maybe address this to Tim or anyone else who would like to jump in, is that, as part of the parks, this project is connected to, and I'm sure there is a list of things that you want to do or that you've heard from the citizens that they want. And I know there was some of this in the there was a survey and in the master plan, but I just want to make sure that at this time, because, things change, that this is a good project to throw, $32,000 at now. If there's not something else that we might want to be aware of that might be needed.
I would say at this time, any project that brings more community gathering is a good project. I think it's a project that was on the master plan to look at community gathering spaces. It was a project that was on the work plan for this year. And I think it's an easy project to add some more seating to that space. Yes, is there future development in that space? We'd love to have that conversation later for that whole plaza itself. But I think we've seen that plaza well used. If you go by anytime on a weekend or on a weekday, I mean, I eat lunch there probably twice a week to go out to get some nice fresh air. It's a well-used plaza that has a lot of opportunities. There's a place to increase some seating for people to use it.
Great. Yeah, I was there Sunday night and there were two tables, two of the round tables that these women appeared to be working on a joint project. Two of them at one table, three of them at another table. And I thought, well, I don't know, would they want to work together on it at the same table? They might, I don't know, but I don't know how much they liked each other. But anyway, but yeah, it is very used and there were so many people there on a Sunday evening. So, yeah.
And to answer the question of why did this come about differently than the projects that sort of come out of Parks and Rec to the commission and then to here, it's really the involvement of the Community Foundation, which has been a wonderful thing for our town. The same thing is happening in Menke Park, where they've initiated this ADA project with regard to Menke Park. And it did. I mentioned once, I said, well, this one kind of came in through the back door. And it's not really the back door. It's the Community Foundation, which represents, they've got a big board and there's a lot of people from the community. And so they are sort of the community outreach a little bit. And plus for the Town Park Plaza, I thought it was even more than this, but they raised over $100,000 to make that plaza happen. So the Community Foundation is a wonderful resource for our town. And that's why I think this came through the way it did, because those conversations happened. And then it was actually when the foundation said, well, what we really want is for those tables, those concrete tables, to be taken care of and maintained and refinished so that they'll really last. And I guess we have a lifetime warranty on the surface they're going to put on there. It's a vinyl, really top quality surface, much like you see on garage floors. So at that point, they wanted that, and they also were very open to the idea of having a more flexible and versatile space underneath in the shade. And I think the answer to the parents about the shade is there's going to be shade there on the plaza. So on those days when you really need shade, if you can't get it at the concrete tables, there will be still shade underneath that structure. Okay, so are there any public comments? We only have one person left in the audience and I think he's asleep. No, he's not, but he didn't even hear me. Is there anybody online who has
Yes,
comments?
we have 4 hands raised.
Oh,
We'll start with Patty Stolier.
hi, Patty.
Good evening. Two things. First, I'm so glad that you're moving this forward because it did come up at the Rec Commission meeting. And one of my strongest points was that people don't know that it's a public park. They think that it's seating for Cafe Verde. And I feel very strongly that we need to have much more inviting signage that this is your park and enjoy it. And then the other was what also you pointed out, it seemed like it was pretty congested. I think Bernie pointed out that it looked like it had the potential to be a little squished. And so I would like to see actual diagrams, or maybe even a mini setup of see how much space there is to move around in the area. And I'm just looking forward to seeing it improved. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
Next, we have Alden Miles.
Hello, Alden.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm not unmuted. Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're unmuted. We can hear you.
Hi. So, Alden Miles. I am a local resident and on the Parks and Rec Commission. So excited again that we are committed to investing in this space. Just to clarify a couple of points that were discussed. One of the shade structure challenges is when the wall is down that actually blocks the sun that's coming in from the west in the afternoon. You will actually cut off all the stone tables. So I think that was one of the issues that you actually create. There's no visibility of those tables if you're inside the shade structure to the things outside the shade structure. And that is the concern of parents who have kids that will go around that and then they can't see them. And the children are between, the street and something they can't see. So I think that's just one thing as we think about the space layout. I would ask that we continue to stay open to getting, even more community feedback. Things can be movable, but those stone tables are going to be hard to move. So let's move them once and really make sure we've got that idea set out really well. But even more than that, the big opportunity here is to think bigger about the plaza. It's a great little space today, but it is very cut off from the rest of the park and from Corte Madera Center. So I would ask that we spend some of this money to actually do up some designs to think about how do we make the Town Park Plaza actually connected to the park. There's no safe walkway. There's a fence between that and Corte Madera Center. Like we could really make this a beautiful space with a little bit more time and imagination. And to Rosa's point on, hey, when we go out and get broad community feedback, we get really great results. The skate park is an incredible example of where we got really great results from spending a couple of rounds, getting a broad set of community feedback. Places where that didn't go so well is our very sad shade structure inside the playground structure that has never shaded anything well at all. So I would just ask that, we've got a lot of great ideas on the table here. Let's take one pass to really pull in one more round of community feedback and make sure that the layout and design we go for is the one that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Alden.
Next, we have Susie Beatty.
Welcome, Susie.
Hi there, everybody. How are you?
Great.
I'm with the Corte Madera Community Foundation, and I just want to say thank you for bringing this topic up again. I hope that you pass it and do want to spend for this particular purpose. I understand Alden's statement about wanting to do more, but I feel like that is a larger topic, and this should probably be handled, the furniture part and so forth, on its own. I want to say to Rosa, too, that actually this project, in a way, Rosa, is being brought back because this was discussed several years ago, and we really didn't come to any agreement on the furniture. And I don't know, 2020 came around, or the COVID came around, and it sort of got slipped away. So to me, this is bringing back something that was discussed before. So I love the idea of there being softer, like more wood in there. It brings in a nice warm feeling. I think the fact that they can be moved around is a great idea. I love that Adam is suggesting doing not at all at one time. That makes good sense. And the umbrella situation, well, anybody that lives with umbrellas, they are imperfect. And we just kind of have to deal with that, I'm afraid. They never, the sun moves all over the sky, and you kind of have to be understanding about that. It's like picnicking and camping and things like that. So I think that I hope you just go ahead with this. And the foundation has given this an okay in its concept. And I know there are details in regard to the furniture, but you guys have done a great job, and thank you for everything you do. That's it.
Thanks so much. Thanks for calling in.
And we have a hand raised from David McPherson.
Hello, David.
Good evening. Lorena, could you pull up page 9 from the published packet, which is a diagram of the relocated concrete tables? So first and foremost, Madam Mayor and members of the council, my family is very supportive of any and all improvements that will go into Town Park. I mean, we feel like everyone on the council that this has been a wonderful example of private-public coordination with Cafe Verde, and it really has been a tremendous success for 15 years. The concern that I brought up with the Parks and Recreation meeting is the relocation of these concrete tables to the perimeter between the planter boxes and the sunshade. So, our town ADA certified expert on this, I would certainly defer to him. However, the ADA and California building codes require exterior walkways have a minimum of 48 inches unobstructed, and actually up to 60 inches depending on the occupant load. And while there is sidewalk to the outside of those planter boxes, my experience over the last 15 years is that most people who are using walkers, most people who are in wheelchairs, most people who are pushing strollers tend to navigate this area by going exactly where the round tables are indicated as being relocated. So I know tonight is not a time when this is going to be decided, but my concern is simply that if those tables were relocated there and a creative plaintiff argued that that is in fact the traditional walkway, that the town would open itself up to accessibility, litigation, and liability. And just from a common sense standpoint, you can imagine a mother trying to push, strollers through that area. It's sort of an obstacle course. So I'm not sure that that will work, but in pointing that out, I will certainly defer to the town's expert. And with that, I'll close my comments.
Thanks very much.
And we don't have any additional hands raised or email public comment for this item.
Okay. Let's come back to the council for any comments and or a motion.
Well, I'll just say that with all the questions about ADA, I think that once we get some clarification on that and then look at the furniture again, then we might make some different purchasing and placement decisions, say, okay, the concrete tables stay in the middle, they go around the community table, and then you have smaller, which it seems to me, and a little more movable, the square tables are on the outside or something like that. But I'm just throwing that out there. But it just seems like that's going to dictate the placement. What we're deciding here is whether to allocate the funds. Is that correct? Okay, so what do you think about?
So if I just wanted to make.
Go ahead, Bernie. I think, because I know we've discussed at least the placement of the concrete tables and ADA compliance, but if you want to add to that, because I think those were the most important pieces, because you don't want to, I agree with everybody. You want to move them once and have that set, and that's where they go. So I think we've looked at that, but you want to.
I'll try to be as general and as vague as I can be at the same time. So the 6 round concrete tables, if we relocated those to the exterior, we only need 2 of those tables that would be required by ADA, or we only need 2 of those tables that would have to be accessible. So the 2 that we would choose that would be ADA accessible, and we can even place a sign on each of those tables, is the 2 tables at each of the ends. So we have one at one end, which is actually on one side, and the other table at the other end is actually on another side. So we've fulfilled equal. So both of those tables would be ADA accessible if all 6 tables are relocated out of there. Now, as far as the comment of 48 inches and 60 inches and 36 inches, without having my code book here exactly, and I will never cite it without having my code book here, because ADA is not something that you memorize, period. However, we do have options in the middle section, and we don't know the furniture yet. And we would, of course, have to have that. That will be unfortunately, it'll be one of the very top underlying factors in purchasing that furniture. It just will be. How much space do we have? Well, we have that space. So to be determined, and it's to be determined, but those 6 tables, 2 of them have to be ADA, and we've identified that on each side, each end. And yes, there will be people using strollers. We'll have a minimum of 36 inches in between those other tables. A stroller should fit in there unless you have a double stroller or a triple stroller. That's my comment only. Thank you.
I would just say on the if we want to get in the stroller comment, I mean, it will likely have people now. There are plenty of access points around the area where the stone tables would go. And it would be more direct to the Cafe Verde, there's to the parking lot, there's a bunch of other access points, but I imagine that one, I think, area that is sort of a additional sidewalk, or I don't even call it that, but additional plaza where the tables would go would be a change condition, that's all. And so people would find a new way to navigate the area.
Just one quick comment. It seems nowadays between AI and technology, it seems like there'd be some kind of modeling out there that instead of going, I know you're probably going to go out there with your tape measure. It seems like there'd be some kind of model out there that you can just pop into some kind of computer program and lay the stuff out and start playing with it.
Okay, you don't have to, that was not a question. That was not a question. You do not need to respond to. I don't like that. Okay, any other comments? Is there a motion? Yeah, Jim?
Well, I was going to make a comment that I think we should go forward with it. In terms of the location of the concrete tables, right now it looks like they're sort of centered on that sort of quarter. You shift them to one side or the other, that might reduce the problems with the 36, 48, 60-inch issue. So you can work on it. And I'm more than willing to make a motion to tell them to go forward.
Okay. Is that an adequate motion? Do you need something more in terms of language there? Authorize?
I think the way of motion, if we could get authorization to, I think it's worded as appropriate, or fund this project at a maximum amount of the $32,670, that would be.
And is there a second?
Second.
Well, thank you. And the roll call.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited. So excited. Okay, and that's just about it. We just move on to council reports, starting with our town manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and council members. A few reports for you. Most importantly, want to inform you that I did get confirmation that funding has been reallocated for the Tamalpais Overcrossing project. Thank you to all the council members who supported sort of our letter writing campaign, and we got a great deal of support from all of our elected officials out there in the state. And locally as well, and TAM and some others. So that's really great news, and that we're going to now, I think work with PG&E and Caltrans to make sure that we're coordinated on a new project schedule. And again, likely that is currently programmed for funding in fiscal year 26, 27 and construction in summer of 27 is what the current schedule is looking like right now. I just got word today that our first two fully electric police patrol vehicles have been outfitted, and they're on the road starting this week. So that is exciting news, and it's more in the Central Marin Police Authority land where that's been vetted and approved. But that's exciting to see those now rolling through our town. I will just note there's progress has been being made on the mural over on Warnham Drive, and maybe Councilmember Cassis, I know, had a conversation with the artist out there, which is great. And so good progress there. And I think that's exciting to see finally happening. One other thing I wanted to note, we are having at least the first during my tenure, a management retreat, sort of a check-in and strategic planning session with our management team here at town. Our town staff, about 12 or 13 of us. We're actually going to be doing it over. Our friends in Mill Valley have given us a space to use. So it's a little bit off-site, not too far, but we're going to be doing it over by the Mill Valley Golf Clubhouse, which is near and dear to my youth. So I'm excited to actually hold it there. It'll be a fun experience. And I'm excited to sort of do some good team building within our organization. And finally, later this week, we have our Bay Cities annual meeting. It's a 2-day meeting in Santa Cruz. So I will be down there as well with Chris. Oh, Chris has left. Chris Petlock as well will be joining. And so this is an annual strategic planning meeting, but also just a good meeting to talk about how we're pooling our resources on and addressing risk management and our insurance. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, from the council, who wants to go first? Anybody? No, nobody wants to go. Are we done? Can I
I
adjourn?
can go.
Okay, go ahead.
10/12, I attended Oktoberfest, put on by Lions Company Beautification Committee. Rosa's going, darn, I missed that one. Great event, great community event. 10/13, I attended the Council of Infill Builders. They issued a report regarding solutions that increase housing opportunities. I think Amy Lyle also was part of that process. So she was up there, Supervisor Rodani. It was a really good presentation. 10/15, I attended Redwood High School. They actually did a groundbreaking ceremony for their fine arts buildings. It's pretty impressive what they're building. Eli was there also. Corte Madera was well representative. Him and I were the only two council people that were in attendance. So I think it just shows the support that Corte Madera gives for our local schools. I'll put a plug in for that. Adam somewhat mentioned this on 10/19. I had the opportunity when I was out walking to talk to Rachel, who's I first met 2.5 years ago, to kind of introduce and get her through the town council process for the mural, which was the easy process. The 2 years that Rebecca worked with her on the Caltrans encroachment was a whole nother story. But I think she said she's going to try to wrap up, I think this week or sometime, I think this week. She still needs to do some more work, and then she's going to put an anti-graffiti coating on there. So hopefully that works. Big thanks to Rebecca, because I know she's been helping her with the town setting up fencing that the town provided, cones when the fencing comes down. Rachel also mentioned Tamalpais Paints. She said they were a great contributor. So again, it's kind of like a community type thing. 10/20, which was last night, I attended Southern Marin Public Transit Workshop, which was put on by Supervisor Malton Peters. That was in Sausalito. 2 parts to that. Part 1 was a 101 transit. TAM was there, Marin Transit was there, and then Dennis Mulligan from Golden Gate Bridge District. So they kind of gave a spiel on what they do, how they get their funding, their bus routes. And then part 2 was on mascots, which that's the program which we're trying to align now with Marin, Sonoma, in the Golden Gate Bridge District. There was input from Sausalito council members, their mayor, and some input from Mill Valley on the bus routes. That'll come back to Marin. Each agency has to approve changes to the scheduling. It'll come to Marin Transit, I believe, next month. There'll be public, a lot of public outreach. Should go into effect in April or so. And just to tag along one thing, like Adam said, because I'm chairing Central Marin Police, 2 new EV patrol cars that'll hit the streets this week, 7 days a week. And then also 3 more coming online. They've been ordered. I think they've been received. They just need to get outfitted with lights, sirens, equipment, all that kind of stuff. So that means we'll be up to 5 EV patrol cars, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months. I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Eli?
I will be quick this week. October 7th through October 10th, I was in Long Beach for the Cal Cities annual conference. October 14th, we had a Central Marin Sanitation Agency board meeting, and then I was right back there the next day for a finance committee meeting. And then later that day, got to go to the Redwood ribbon cutting or groundbreaking with Fred. And that is all.
I went to Oktoberfest.
Good job. Jim, anything?
Councilmember Brandt.
I
Thank you.
did spend an hour or so talking with Kate Collins about what she's doing with the CMSA and whatever. And I assume, well, if Eli wants guidance from us, he can arrange to have us discuss it at a meeting. Otherwise, you've got our proxy.
Great. Okay, so I can fill in a little on Kate Collins. I met with her also, and what she'd like to do is come and talk with us on November 18th to kind of pitch the idea. I found her comments really helpful. I was sort of going back from, there was a guy who came and talked to us about it previously, and there was a lot of negativity about it, and I think she has a whole different way of looking at it. I was also at Oktoberfest, and I just want to say this was the Oktoberfest to really break the barriers, because it's always been that the beautification committee held it and the Lions Club kind of came along because they had to, because we needed their liquor license. And this was the first year that we truly tried a team approach. They're splitting the proceeds and everybody worked great together. It was like, wow, this is what we hope for. And along those lines, coming up next is the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, which all of the council and everyone is invited to. And I'd like to have some, if you want to invite some staff too, that will be on Friday, November 14th. We have our same wonderful caterer, Stacy Scott, who does this amazing Thanksgiving dinner, turkey and all the dressing. Amy, you should come. It's really fun. It's like a big turkey dinner and really small town joy. So other than that, I'm actually been getting involved in the biking, the guys who are doing the MTB TAM bike group. They're really wanting to get us to support a design for the greenway between the ferry pathway and Nellen. And if anybody wants to come with me on Friday, they're going to pitch their designs and they're going to feed us lunch. I guess I can take one person, right? I can't, one person. So if you want to go to that, let me know. And then the only other thing I want to report on, because I promised I would, is that I was invited to a meeting with some young moms. Most of them had babies here and another one in tow. And they're very concerned about the fact that we're the only district in the county that doesn't offer TK, transitional kindergarten. And like I always do, I promised I would help, and I have no idea how to do that. So, but I've said that, it's something that we could talk about. Not something that I would work with them on. Amy, what would you like to say? Amy, you. Oh, I know it's already happening. Mill Valley had to do it. Bolinas did it.
In the governor's budget bill, going to be required.
Oh, I thought that was already the case. But anyway, they're on top of it. They have a lawyer. They have a gal who's a lawyer who's was, I think, the one who really got things initiated. So, yeah, and they actually had a meeting about it with the district back in April and found out that it wasn't, they thought the takeaway was that it's not happening. So I think that's why they've come around to ask council to be involved, because if you remember, Larkspur used to run a preschool program in Town Park, and then they gave that up, and we've taken over the buildings for our after-school program. So they're thinking the towns should be helping, and so I don't know how we feel about that, but I just wanted to report. And the only other thing I want to say is, can we do a event in Menke Park where we bring in some snow close to Christmas? We did it for the anniversary, the 100th anniversary, and people loved it. And Patty Stolier, if you're still out there, tell me how we get snow.
To deflect on that, and I'm going to say,
Yeah, how much does the snow cost? There you
I
go.
was not able to attend Oktoberfest, so I'm glad to hear it went well, but I was attending my son's Taekwondo black belt test, which he received on that same Saturday. So
don't mess with him.
Go Jesse. So that's how I'm answering that question.
I'd be concerned having a 12-year-old son with a black belt. That sounds like a
Looks like daddy's.
risk factor.
Yeah.
Take you down.
Okay, so I think that was all the council reports. Does anyone have any comments or requests for future agenda items? Anyone? If not, I think we are ready to adjourn, 8:14.